Hello, and a warm welcome to today's podcast episode, Your Fertility Counselor. I'm super excited to have Kim Unwin here. Kim has been the co-founder of Fertility Support Singapore, but also she's the founder of the Effort Asia, and she developed a new app that is the first Asia's fertility app ever. The launch will be on the 27th of September, and I can't wait to hear from her about her work that she has been doing over these past 5 years for Fertility Support Singapore, but also all the WhatsApp groups that she is moderating, how she is supporting peer groups, how she has been supporting doctors and IVF clinics. Please welcome Kim and get a cup of tea or a coffee or a glass of water, and let's get started. I'm so excited to have you here, Kim. Thank you so much for making the time on such a short notice as well.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you, really. And I'm so much looking forward to this conversation today. So before we dive in, and I know we have a lot to talk about, I would like to kick off with the question that I'm asking each and every guest in our podcast. It's like, what's your favorite morning ritual?
Wow. Okay. So in the morning, I know this sounds a bit cliched, but in the morning, the first thing I do when I wake up is I actually check all the WhatsApp messages that I have because, I think we'll talk about this later because I have so many WhatsApp groups and I wake up to hundreds of messages every day. So that's my usual morning ritual. So I'll read them and make sure they're all answered and this and that.
Oh, wow. So people can really like count on you early morning already that they will get a reply, which is
Yeah.
amazing. Really, yes. Okay. So for those listener, and I know your name is very well known in Singapore, but as you know, our podcast also reaches into other countries. So
Yeah.
for those listeners maybe that don't know you yet, can I ask you maybe just to introduce you to tell us what you do and what companies you have founded, co-founded, so that we are all on board.
Wow. So my name is Kim, Kim Unwin, and I have been on the journey myself in terms of infertility and IVF and, a whole range of fertility treatments. But 5 years ago, I helped co-found Fertility Support Singapore. And since then, I've left in the capacity, but I founded the F-Word Asia, which is a social media platform where we try to, share real stories and give people just more information on what they kind of need to know on the journey. And I'm excited to say that I'm also one of the co-founders of the Ovivio fertility app, which is Asia's first fertility app that will be launching on the 27th of September. So I'm really excited about that.
Wow, wow, congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming, but yeah.
I can imagine, yes, and something that is so much needed actually to have because just
Absolutely.
thinking of all the fertility apps that we have around the world, but there was no one here to really look after creating such an app for Asia, which is
Exactly.
absolutely amazing. Thank you for not giving up, for being so determined.
Oh, I know that stubbornness is not a good thing sometimes, but I think in this case it's quite okay. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So you were just mentioning before about like all the WhatsApp groups and WhatsApps actually that you are attending first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about what are these WhatsApp groups actually?
So when we started the group 5 years ago, I always felt that um, the ways of support it's very much needed in terms of being a direct type of support. And one of my biggest ideas was previously when I was going through my own journey, I was reaching out to a lot of Facebook groups, but they were not predominantly here in Singapore. They were actually mainly in the UK and the US, who I think are a lot more open of their journeys. So in Singapore, I realized, we love WhatsApp groups. We actually do a lot of our conversations on WhatsApp. And so we started off creating little groups for fertility. So it started off with general groups. And then as people kind of asked it, okay, do you have a group for, ladies over the age of 40? So we're like, no, but let's start one. And so today, 5 years later, we're 1,500 members strong. And
Wow.
we have different communities. We have ladies who, not only talk about fertility treatments, but talk about, donor egg, donor sperm, adoption, fostering, surrogacy. There's so many conversations that we have and groups that we have in the WhatsApp groups that, it's a lovely community.
And this is so, so great to hear that you actually give them really this safe space, because what I'm hearing or what I understand is also that this is like peer support mainly.
Yes,
Is this
yes.
correct? Right?
I think, yeah, as you said, it's definitely peer support because when you're going through the journey, I think the biggest thing that you feel is loneliness.
Yeah.
And by having conversations with people who are kind of going through the same thing, it's the quickest type of support you can get on the journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's also not just like an exchange of information, but it's also supporting each other and cheering it up if necessary, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we even have groups like, the miscarriage group. And I think
Mhm.
miscarriage is one of the hardest things to go through in life. And but the community is not just about going there to ask for information of what to do next, but it's more so just going in and we have ladies who, as soon as somebody enters the group, we have a lady that goes, I'm so sorry that you're here. How can we help? And I
Oh,
think that
wow.
that first voice that you hear when you go into the group is it's amazing.
Oh, yes, yes. Just gives me goosebumps now. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, so great. So something that you just shared now, and I'm wondering, because you said like when you were actually reaching out at face groups in UK and US, they were much more open to discuss about your infertility journey, and not so much in Singapore, for example, or in Asian countries in general. Um, why do you think is that so?
I think, honestly, 5 years ago, the topic of infertility here in
Mm,
Singapore and in Asia it was just so taboo. I think,
mhm.
and even just the topic of miscarriage was so taboo. Nobody actually was open enough to talk about it. I think everybody just feels some sort of, whether it's shame or, that
Mhm.
there's something wrong with me. And so I can't openly talk about it. But
Mm,
honestly, in the last 5 years, with the groups being formed and with the conversation getting more and more open, we do see a lot more ladies who are a bit more open to share their journey. But obviously, we still have a good majority that still want to just stay silent, and just
mm.
kind of, even in the WhatsApp groups, we have some of the ladies who are very open and they'll talk and this and that. But we have a good majority who are just silent readers who just want to be there,
Yeah,
just listening into the
yes,
conversations, but not ever saying anything. And that's fine. It's really
yeah.
dependent where you want to be on the journey.
Yes, and this is like so nice to hear, because even though it's a WhatsApp group and your phone number is out there, but it's like still a safe place for people to feel like whether, if they want to share something, they can, but they don't have to. And it's there is no expectation about it as well.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
we monitor it, we moderate it so well. So, like a lot of them are just women predominant groups. So men are not allowed to join. We also, make sure that people who are joined are, for example, I think in IVF or infertility treatments, the topic of pregnancy is very sensitive.
Hmm.
So, whenever anybody has a question to do with pregnancy, we usually straight away check it and say, oh, sorry, could you delete your message? This is not the right place, but we will direct you to the right group to ask
Oh.
about that. So we moderate it so that you're constantly safe to ensure that, you're not hearing things that will be a trigger for you as well.
Wow. So is it you alone who is actually moderating all this group, or do you have like a whole team behind it, or how does that work?
So
Because I
at the
imagine,
start, it was really, a lot of times it's me, but, I'm very lucky to have some good friends who have been through the journey as well, who've said, Kim, if you need us, we're there. And they help to really moderate and, kind of just keep an eye out for.
yes, yes. I guess it's still needed, right? Because sometimes you don't know, you can have a good day and a bad day, and
Exactly, exactly.
yeah,
And sometimes there's a lot of information that's not needed. Everybody has their own point of view. So we're kind
yeah.
of just trying to manage things sensitively to ensure that everybody is okay in the groups.
You are so right. Yes. You briefly mentioned about the men, that men are not allowed. I'm still wondering because I feel when I meet with couples, I feel that men would they actually would probably appreciate a place where they can safely share their journey because they have a story to tell, which is completely different from their wife very often. And I'm wondering, you have no man group at all at the moment?
We do. We have one men's group. Okay.
Okay, okay,
We do have
fantastic.
okay. We do have groups like donor egg, donor sperm, where we allow both couples to come in. The
Oh,
adoption group and surrogacy group are also groups that we allow, both husband and wife to come into.
okay.
But we do have a men's group that doesn't have any women. Okay.
Oh,
But my husband's in it, and but it's quite interesting. The types of questions that they ask are totally different
oh
from
yeah.
what the women are asking. And sometimes my husband will go, okay, the conversation today was kind of like this. And I was like, oh, interesting. It's really very different from the women, but we know that there's at least a safe space where men can ask questions or, and I think a lot of times we have men who go, how do I support my wife? Things
Mm,
like that. But you're right. The men are important, okay, because I just would love to share this story that So I was doing a talk one day, a live talk with a whole group of people, and a lot of times the ladies will come up to me and they'll say, and they'll start crying because they're sharing their journey with me.
mm,
And then so we had this lady and she said, oh, I feel so upset. I've had failure after failure, and it upsets me that my husband doesn't do anything. He's just there and he's not upset. He doesn't feel the emotions that I feel. And she was crying and everything. And so I kind of turned to the husband and I said, how are you feeling? I don't think anybody's actually ever asked him how you're
mm,
feeling. And he looked at me and he just said, I cry in the toilet and nobody.
mm,
And that kind of shocked the wife because I don't think she ever, I
mhm.
mean, ever realized or ever heard. And I think the men do play a big part. They also feel certain emotions, and we have to acknowledge that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I think, and I'm not sure like what your experience is or your husband's experience, who is in
Mm,
that group, but I'm also thinking, it's also kind of like their upbringing, right? Boys don't cry.
yep,
And then not showing emotions is also part of the Asian culture very much.
very much
And
so.
I
Yeah.
think it's a combination of not showing emotion, boys don't cry. So I'm often, talking also about like being that rock in the ocean, no matter what, and how the storm goes. But then also you can see that as soon as the wife comes up, and we have been seeing that quite a few times. When she comes up and she starts to rise, the guy actually starts to, and sometimes to the point where the husband would deflate in such a way that actually could even lead into like a burnout or a depression because he has been upholding this whole fort for so long and finally he can let go. So,
Absolutely. I think on our part, so my husband's, I'm half Asian. Okay. My husband is full Asian. And,
mhm.
it's amazing to see how many friends and that have gone through fertility treatments and everything. And in the group as well, but the number of couples who end up in divorce or
Oh, yes.
separation or end up having relationship issues.
Mm.
Sometimes I think we forget the fundamentals of what we're going through is to build a family. But
Yeah.
with what we're going through, we really forget why we were, what was the relationship like in the first place. And you're right, I think a lot of men just kind of get pushed behind in this whole journey and we just forget about it.
Absolutely, you are so right. And we usually say, like, if there has been like issues that you have been trying to sweep under the carpet,
Yeah,
an IVF journey or a fertility journey per se can be putting so much stress on it that actually all what you have been trying to hide under the carpet would actually come out. Um, because it's really the peak of stress that makes it
it
happen.
is. Oh, you're absolutely right. I think this is probably one of the most stressful times of your life. So
Absolutely.
if you don't have strong foundation, within the relationship to build upon it, it's a
Yeah.
make or break situation for sure.
Absolutely. Are there any topics that you can see in the WhatsApp groups that are really coming up again and again from the group of women that are there? Have you seen anything like
So many. I think, okay, one of the main ones, I guess, is, dealing with the emotions of failure.
that?
I think a lot of people, okay, I think for one, I think a lot of them going into treatments don't realize or probably have never had failure like this before.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think that the surprise that actually the treatments itself isn't that hard, but it's
Mm,
dealing with the anxiety of things and the failure of, when things don't work out. I think that hits a lot of women really, really
absolutely.
hard. Yeah. So, I mean, from your experience, what's your suggestions? Things that they
Yeah, we actually tried really to maybe try to put it into different words because the word failure per se is already like has some
It's a
negative.
stigma, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
a stigma, exactly.
Yeah.
You are being brought up not to fail, actually, with all the tuitions in exams
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
whatever, right? So there is so much effort being put
Yeah.
into that. You should never fail during your career or studies or anything what you do. And so here comes the moment where also what I'm seeing, it's a combination of like women starting to realize that they can control to a certain extent of how their fertility journey goes, but then they reach a certain point, especially in IVF, we call it the embryo transfer, where there is no control left. There is like this moment where they really need to let go because there is nothing from the moment that the embryo is being transferred back into their body. There is nothing that they can really control from then. And it really makes them feel really anxious about it. And so to come back to your comment about like how we help is really to rephrase it in a certain way and to really bring also that mind and body connection back and start to trust their body, and rephrase like what is it, what, like rephrase failure, rephrase success, and look at it maybe into milestone, breaking it down into milestones, and work through the emotion really that is attached, because underlying emotion is very often fear, what they think it is. But if we dig deeper, we can actually also see that there is this deep sadness, and the deep sadness is the one that is actually really like the one that needs to be worked on.
I actually met one of the ladies yesterday and I had been with her. And it was such an emotional time, but um it was quite interesting. So she was telling me that, her husband was telling her that it's okay, it doesn't matter if we have a child or not. So if it
Mm.
happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That upset her a lot because that was
Mm.
not something that she could accept. But um he or she couldn't accept the fact that she says that if I was to stop now, or if I never was to have a child, I can't go back to who I was prior to
Mm.
even trying. I will forever be a different person. And I don't know how to live life.
Yeah, yeah.
You see that with a lot of ladies.
Oh, yes. And this is such a strong statement. And there were two things actually in what you just said, Kim. And I think one is like that sometimes if a couple has been going through this fertility journey for more than a year, the longest I had was 16 years. 16 years of doing IVFs and doing whatever was in there for fertility treatment and procedures and whatever. And the husband looked at me and he said, I'm looking at my wife and I don't recognize her anymore, because the woman that I once met and fell in love with and married is not the same anymore. So I think you're right. It's like there is so much change. So for women also having experienced all of it
The
and
trauma. I think the trauma of
trauma,
things changes you completely. Yeah.
absolutely trauma changes, the grief changes you and everything. You carry that backpack, right?
Yeah.
So absolutely it changes them. The question is, and this is really key to work on, is like, well, it's you have options, you have a choice in that moment of who you want to become. Do
Okay.
you want to become that sad, grieving being for the rest of your life
Yeah.
and mourn about something that has not happened in your life? Or do you want to go and seek meaningful connections and go on this different journey of finding purpose? And I know it sounds really stereotyping, but we do see women that from the moment they say, this is it, we have discussed it, this is our last IVF, not going through anything else, they go through the last embryo transfer, a classic where pregnancy would happen because they let go.
That's what happened with me.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I did my last transfer. So I started the whole journey of trying for my story is a bit different because I went through secondary infertility. So I was trying for my third child, which, makes me feel really guilty because of the fact that everybody's trying for their first and I was trying for my third. So there was a lot of guilt there, but that's a story for another day. But I started when I was 32 and my last embryo transfer was when I was 40. And
Oh,
at the age of 40, I told myself, and I told my husband, I said, I think my stubbornness has led me to where we are. And I think that this will be my last time. And it was the only time that I really didn't think about things. I didn't stress. I didn't even test at home till the day before. Usually I'm a serial tester. But I didn't because I just thought whatever happens, happens. And I didn't think it'd succeed.
wow. And here we go. Yes. And this is such a classic. And I've seen this happening so many times. So many times. Yeah.
But another question for you, which I think is an interesting one. So, for me, because I think, if you had asked me at the age of 36, 37, 38, when will you stop? I would not
Mhm.
have told you. I wouldn't know. And
Mhm.
that's a question. But, at 40, it just hit me that, okay, I think this will
Mm.
be my last time. But I
Yeah.
have a lot of ladies that ask, when should I stop? I don't know. So is it based on, I mean, from what you know and what you see, is it based on the feeling will come to you or, are there conversations that should be had and this and that?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think we see both happening. We see those where the feeling just plops in all of a sudden, and there is this inner feeling telling them enough is enough, and let's get back your life. And they are ready to go. You see, like that when they start thinking about, like, I really wanted always to go on this travel. We always wanted to go to Alaska. We always wanted to
Yeah.
go on a trip, and they finally start to plan for it. And this is like what we see happening. And then we have others who actually where the couple is not in sync, where one says, let's stop it.
Oh, that's
And the other one still wants to push and push. And then the couple is not in sync anymore. And then one feels like, let's have a session because I really want to find out when can we stop this because it's a
yeah.
nightmare. I want to have our relationship back. I want
Yeah.
to be free to plan and to go and live life again.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one is still like planning,
Yeah.
IVF treatments and holidays and this and that, cannot do this because of this and all that, right? And it's very, very difficult to bring that into stop because it's so deep in our program. And I'm not only talking for women. We had men who were so deep into this program of reproduction and they couldn't stop. They really couldn't. And then you have, like, also because we are working in this trial with the doctors, right? We also have some of the doctors who actually take the courage to say, like, we have tried so many things, and I just I just I'm not sure how much longer we should do this. and they put it out there, and
Yeah.
courageous for them, you know. I really give them kudos, because as an IVF doctor, you try to strike the balance between you want to be the sparring partner for your patient and you want to be there for them, but also there are some doctors who also really feel the mental and emotional load of all of it.
Another big area, or that we
Mm.
see, is that when people have to stop because of financial reasons. So here in
Oh,
Singapore, obviously we know, it's not cheap. IVF treatment is not.
yeah.
I think that one's a bit hard because you're not stopping because you want to stop,
Mm.
or stopping because there are, just don't have the resources. And we see men hit that. We see a lot of the husbands
Yeah.
hit that first, because I think, and just now I mentioned the men's group. A lot of the questions there are more towards financial questions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the men are asking, how much will I have to put aside? How much is it going to cost us? I don't think there's something that women really ask, but the men, we see it very
Oh,
often. But yeah, what's the situation there?
yeah.
When there's a lot of not to say stubbornness, but there's a lot of, you're not ending because I want to end it. I'm
Mhm.
ending it because I just don't have the resources anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a topic that comes up as well in our sessions. And what we can see is anger. We can see really the emotion of anger coming up, because it's like they want to do it, but then they don't have the financial means to do it anymore. And at the same time, it's a lot of pressure on the husband. The husband tries to stay cool about it and try not to mention it at all.
Yeah.
But you can see, and it actually came out in a survey that we did in an anonymous way. And we
Yeah.
asked them, what's the highest stressors? And for men, it was the job position and the financial situation came out number one. And for women was real, like losing trust and confidence into their own body. So it was very different. Yes, anger is one. We also had situations where the whole family started to chip in, the aunties, the uncles, the parents, but then they all wanted to have a say at it,
Yeah.
which was then also very difficult, because then you have to manage not only the relationship, and you start managing the whole family,
Wow.
because
Because everybody has a
everyone,
say. Everybody
yeah,
has a say. And
yes. And in one occasion, we had 11 people showing up at the clinic, because they all wanted to witness the moment of embryo transfer, because they all felt that I had chipped in with that, right? So it's part of that little one is also mine.
well, I've got a story where a couple actually had to sell off they sold their, because the government apartment, they moved back in with the parents so that they could use the
Oh,
money that they sold the house to try. They tried 11 times.
wow.
Ultimately,
They did not succeed. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really, really sad, and I hate sharing stories like that, but that's the reality of things.
Yeah, exactly. There are stories like that as well. Yeah. We had the one that I remember that really hit me emotionally, really, was one that I think all in all, it was like $120,000 being put into IVF in total. And the baby was born, a healthy baby. Everyone was so happy. And mommy was not happy. She couldn't bond with that baby. She just couldn't. And then everybody thought like, and was saying to her, but you must be so happy, right? Because you now finally have the baby that you always wanted. And she just couldn't be happy. And that's really, really sad to see as well. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm wondering, like going forward, like we've all, what's happening, the stress that is so high in Singapore as well, fast paced and everything. But I think it's a symptom that we are seeing all around the world, not only Singapore. Um, are you what topics are you seeing around that? Are we seeing more?
I think
Um,
work, we see a bit of work stress, because I think, in Singapore, most couples are like, in certain countries where, you can actually have the luxury of staying at home while you do treatments. But here in Singapore, a good majority are still working while they're doing treatments. If the workplace is understanding, then I
Mhm.
think that makes a lot of things easier. But we do see a good majority where the workplace is not understanding. Why are you
Yeah.
taking so much leave? Why are you, where are you going? Why are you taking days off? And there's so much into it. And so a lot of people feel that they can't tell their colleagues. Obviously, I think the fertility journey is something that's so personal. Okay.
Mm.
Apart from the tabooism of
Mhm.
I think unless somebody's been on the journey,
Mhm.
other people don't really understand what you
Yeah.
let's just say that, oh, if you can't just try again, like, all the comments that we usually get, go on a holiday, don't stress,
Oh,
go pray at that place, there's so many things that people say. And so a lot of people feel that at the workplace where they're just colleagues and not actually friends, or
yeah.
it's very hard to share what you're going through, and therefore that stress
Mm.
builds up, especially
Mm.
when you need to take time off to kind of de-stress, and it's not going to happen. That's a big
Yeah.
topic that we have. So how would you?
It is absolutely a big topic, which actually just makes me think, are you planning to give any talks to companies or anything with your
Yeah,
institution?
you
Because I
know,
think there is a lot of work we need to actually do with the employers as well.
100%. Okay, so Fertility Support SG just launched workplace guidelines, something that working on. They've been working on for many years. It was a great suggestion, and so they finally launched that. So we're trying to
Mhm.
encourage more on their website, download the guidelines, which actually gives you tips on how you should interact with employees who might be going through treatment. The problem that we see is that these guidelines are probably more suitable, or the MNCs or the bigger companies are the ones who would really try to use them. But
Yeah.
a lot of the people who are suffering in the workplace are people from small organizations,
Yeah.
which don't have the time and effort or the capacity to deal with all of these because they're
Mm.
so limited in terms of their strength. And that's where we're still trying to figure out where we can help. Definitely,
Yeah.
we hope that the government changes, but we do believe education is still key in education
Yes.
and workplace on how you actually. I mean, you don't have to give benefits, but just to be a bit more understanding for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think so too. Education is absolutely key. And it's a good entry point actually to get information being like being how do you say brought to the people, and it's a constant drip of this communication that sometimes helps suddenly for new ideas to evolve.
It's like egg freezing,
Yeah,
If you ask the IVF community,
yeah.
I mean, if you ask them, who would have egg freezed if you were given that chance earlier
Mm.
on? I would say 90% of them would say, I would.
Mm.
But to the younger generation, so, sometimes I go out and give talks to the younger generations, and I said, why wouldn't you, like, would you consider egg freezing? And the good majority go, no, right.
Oh,
So we have two big areas. One that says, I don't even want kids, you know.
oh, wow.
And then you have the other area who said, I'll try for a kid when the time. But I think it's education.
Mm.
If
It
they
is.
were to understand, better about fertility, then they might make better decisions. I mean, you look at schools in Singapore,
Mm.
in sex education in primary schools or secondary schools, they tell you don't have sex, don't have a baby, but they never tell you that there is also a time period that you should have a baby. They don't tell you how fertility goes down. So I
Mm.
think that I would love to introduce fertility education, maybe not in primary or secondary school, but in
Mm.
college or, university, where I think it's a conversation that young women, and even men should learn about so that they make better decisions later.
Absolutely. I totally agree with the idea. Yes. And actually, if I look at like the reproductive medicine, the communities that we have, there are actually such scripts already and such plans, especially with ESHRE in Europe, um, we can definitely bring this up also at the Aspire, which is the Asian version of the reproductive medicine, where such topics could actually really be helpful for doctors as well.
I
Yeah.
think there's still so much. I mean, we've come a long way in the
Yeah.
last few years, but there's so
Yeah.
much more that can be done for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I can feel the passion that you have for this topic.
So
And it's wonderful.
I think having gone through the journey,
Mm.
I feel a sense of importance to give back to the community,
Yeah.
especially after succeeding. And I think helping people on the journey actually made me, that was my means of forgetting about my journey or stressing about my own journey because I was so focused on helping others. I
Yes.
think that's something that you need to find something that makes you forget your own journey.
Yeah, and either forget or also healing. It brings back healing because you basically transform something that was related to something that was stressful or maybe heavy or different and challenging into something that is going to be so helpful and so supportive to others. And
You
this
know,
is so beautiful.
while we're there, one of the other topics that we often get is talking
Mhm.
about trauma. When people succeed, a lot of
Yeah.
them think that the trauma that I went through will go away,
Mm.
but it doesn't, and I still feel it, finally I succeeded, but certain smells, certain
Oh,
music from the clinic, that I used to sit around, things still trigger me. And that trauma just comes, the trauma of my miscarriage, going to a hospital where that all went,
yeah.
would you help ladies go through that? Because I've even spoken to a lady that did IVF 25 years ago, and she
Mhm.
says she still feels the trauma today.
Wow. 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 And it shows how trauma is actually really incorporated in a cell and then sticking on in our body, right? And that's why the moment that we sense something, it could be a smell, it could be like a visual, it could be a similar name, a gesture, a word, a music, as you said, like it just brings us back there, just there. Yeah, exactly. So trauma is there is it depends a little bit like on how deep the trauma was and what exactly it was, but what I very often work with clients is like to really let them rewrite their fertility journey or their birth journey or their pregnancy journey. The reason being is because they have a certain way on how they feel about it, and but it could also be a bit distorted because when you ask the husband about it, the husband would tell you a different story, and it almost seems like they have not been on the same journey because the way how they actually experience it is so much different, right? And so very often I say like, maybe that's a good starting point to write down the story, how you feel it went, but then also to rewrite it, thinking of like, how would you like to hear it if you would be that baby or that child? Because one day your child maybe asks you, "Hey, mommy, how was it when I was in your tummy?" And if you were one of those moms who had this incredible nausea, who experienced a really, really challenging pregnancy, is that what you want to pass on to your child, really? Or do you want to share a story of love, a story of peace, a story of maybe adventure, just making it up, even like to make it really beautiful for your child so that your child really feels like, wow, what a great journey. This must have been so beautiful.
I think
It's
I've never thought about it that way, but yeah, that makes sense.
because there is so much love and kindness that comes in. Where because I'm sharing this with you because I had women who said like, and they were dealing with primary infertility. And we were trying to find out what was blocking them really, because I could sense that somehow they're ready, that the body was trying to get ready, but it was the mind that was not ready yet. There were some beliefs in their mind that prevented them somehow to become pregnant. And I remember this client who, in one sentence, just like that, she said, like, anyway, I believe I won't be a good mom. And I said, wow, this is now really interesting. Like, how come? How come you are telling me that you would not become a good mom? And she said, like, well, I actually remember me being a child, and because I love to play much more with cars than with my dolls. And then one day my mom came into my room and I had all my cars lined up nicely, but my doll was like thrown into a corner. And my mom scolded me and said, like, well, if you don't look after your doll, you will never become a good mom. And we know that her mom didn't mean it
Mean
with
it, yeah.
no, there was no bad intention. It was just one sentence. But in that moment, it seemed that my client, who was then 5 years old, was really open for this suggestion, and somehow it encapsulated it into her body. And then years later, at the age of 37, she comes into my session and said, anyway, I don't believe I will become a good mom. So we had to kind of like rephrase it and give the sentence back to her mom, because this was a sentence that didn't even come from her system. It was a sentence that came from the outside. So this is how we do this work with trauma, or we really try to identify, like, from where is this from? Is this really something that was like created in your brain, in your body, or was that coming from a teacher, a doctor who says, like, well, at the age of 39, I think chances are very slim for you here. You hear all, and it's not with bad intention. It's like what they are seeing in and out in many of their patients, maybe, but it doesn't mean that this is happening to you as well, because you can have a very healthy body and you can be super fertile at the age of 39. I have seen women who were super fertile at the age of 45. They had a body of a 32-year-old. And they were easily pregnant and had a wonderful pregnancy. So there is not really like some, yes, there is statistics and I read them and I see the numbers and everything. But just because statistics are taking the bulk of numbers, it doesn't mean that you are one of them as well.
No,
Yeah.
you said something really interesting just now. So this lady that you talked about, so you said that her body was prepared, but her mind wasn't. Based on, your years of experience and research, how big a player does the mind play in
Oh, a
all that?
lot. The mind is the police. We have the hypothalamus sitting here in our brain. Hypothalamus is the one that is actually sensing the whole time, is there danger? Is there something we need to call, like survival status or anything, right? And so the moment that this hypothalamus comes to the point of saying, like, this is not a good time, remember, and is also like responding to that little critical voice in us saying, like, yeah, your body might be ready, but how about you? Are you sure? Are you really sure about this? So it's this inner voice that is constantly here sometimes, and that we like to switch off, but we don't know how, right? And so we could really feel, I could really sense that her brain was really like blocking or preventing her, and it was this belief system that she was carrying in her that was
I think
preventing her. And to end this story, the moment we addressed this belief and separated this belief from her system and gave it back to her mom with all the therapy and the tools that we use, she went on and got pregnant.
I think that's so important. So, because a lot of people just presume that, it's stress and everything, but they don't hear how it actually affects rest of their body. They just think it's just my mind, I can't control it, but it doesn't matter as long as my body is ready. But it's so interesting to know how it's all linked, in terms of actual research.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I'm being very much into research about mind and body at the moment. So I'm reading about all these research articles, and it's so fascinating how powerful the mind is. And I was just talking today to a friend of mine over lunchtime, and I said to her, if the mind can be so powerful to imagine and to do certain things in our body that people can actually get sick. Not even about it's about that shiver that you have when you sit in a movie theater and you're so in the movie and then you get really spooky movies, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
But then there are also these negative thought patterns that we can actually develop in such an incredible, powerful way that we can actually fall sick because of it. So, to turn this now around, in infertility, we can use the power of the mind to turn this pattern into a positive one to actually find healing in our body. So, I have seen women who actually went into menopause state at the age of 32 years. They had no more ovulation happening. They had no more follicles with the highest hormone stimulation, not responding to any hormone stimulation anymore. And we use the power of mind, of visualizing, of bringing in positive suggestions and affirmation. And in a span of 3 months, they got the ovulation back, they got the menses back, they got follicles growing again. It was amazing to see what the power of mind can do within 3 months.
I wish more women knew about that, I think everybody believes in, okay, positive thinking, but they don't know how. And I think it's so important for them to learn the proper methods.
Yes.
People to teach you what you should do. And I think that's amazing. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I was actually wondering for in your groups, the topics that they share and the support that they give each other. Is there also some topics that come up where you feel like that it's either bringing them up or bringing them down? Also, because you are moderating this group, right? And so because I feel that it's really important. Yes, reality is that maybe it's challenging at the moment, and we are here for you. But I think it's so important to keep a positive energy to it.
So I mean, of course, certain topics are very sensitive, the topic rage. So we have
Can you come closer to the microphone? Because right now
sorry. Can you hear me? Yeah.
yes,
So like certain topics where it's a bit more taboo, like let's say if somebody shares, oh, I think I'm bleeding, I think I'm going through a miscarriage, that triggers a lot of other ladies because it's like, oh, if it happens to you, could it start happening to me? And then so there are a lot of there's so much moderating to be done to ensure that, or for example, I think in the group, as much as you're happy to hear about people's pregnancies, at the same time, when people are getting pregnant and you're not,
yeah.
it's heartbreaking to a certain extent. And we have ladies who kind of bond together, who kind of say, okay, who's on the journey together? Let's do this together. And let's say out of the group of four, three get pregnant and one doesn't. That one suddenly, that whole bonding experience isn't good anymore because that's upset me more than when I bonded with you in the first place. So 100%. I mean, there's always going to be good, but there's also a lot of bad.
Yes, yes. And I can imagine this is like where it's really difficult sometimes to balance this because I absolutely find the beauty about peer support group when they are all on the same page. But I have seen and heard also from some of my clients where they were started off all at the same point, and then she said, and now I'm just looking at all of them being pregnant or having even babies. Some of them have even their baby number 2 already, and here I am, and I'm still trying for a baby number 1. and it's
It
heartbreaking.
is, it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, for example, I know of this group where three of them did get pregnant. One of them did have their second child, but finally, when that fourth one had her child, and she just had a child last month, so the child is 1 month old. But these three were the biggest cheerleaders for her because
Oh,
they prayed for her. They wanted so much. And when she finally got pregnant and she finally shared the news that, they cried with her because they said, we've been hoping for this for so long for you. We really wanted you to have it. So, I mean,
hmm.
things come in full circle sometimes, but we
Yes.
can only hope that everybody ends up with good results at the end of the day.
Exactly. And good results in a way, also I want to emphasize again for those listening here. It doesn't mean the good results always means to have a baby in your arms. It could also be a good result for you if you come to terms that actually it's also good life to have without those children, because if you find a way on how to pursue your purpose and be able to give in different ways, it can also be a very, very, very fulfilling life.
Absolutely. And I think, there's the part of whether you end up having a child or not, and there's the whole other part of whether you have a child in another manner. So it's not necessarily through, conceiving a baby yourself, but whether through, adoption. We have adoption groups. We have, as I said, surrogacy groups, but fostering groups. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you complete your family, whether you decide that, I'm okay not to have children, or if you're open enough to, and I think that's still very taboo here in Singapore, but it
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. Okay. It comes down to what you can accept and what you're happy with. Either way, I think the biggest message that I'd like people to know is that this is just a part of your journey.
Yeah,
Life goes on and there's so much more to life after this
yeah.
stage. And I think that's a realization that a lot of people don't understand until they've passed the stage.
Yes, yes, you are so right with that. And thank you for pointing that out, because I think that's what many, many women and men should really hear, because they often come and look at it as the last resort, and they feel so much under pressure. And it's so great to show, hey, this is how it could continue. Yeah, yeah. So thank you for opening up, and also for creating all these WhatsApp groups, despite the fact that you wake up to so many WhatsApp messages in the morning and doing all this wonderful work. But I'm sure you probably could write a book about all these wonderful stories that you have.
I could, but I think it's so as much as there's so much that I go through with them. I feel so much joy when they succeed, or when they decide their journey comes to end, and they come to me and they say, either way, whatever happened, we're glad that it happened, and we're glad you were with us on the journey. And I feel so much for these women that just hope everybody ends up getting what they want at the end of the day.
Yes, yes, exactly. Absolutely. Yes. And there is one more thing. Maybe you want to share that, because we have
Oh,
this Saturday coming up, the Virtus Fertility Fair, the
yeah.
first one, Saturday, 27th September. And can you share a little bit more for our listeners?
Yeah. So when Virtus came and said, okay, let's do a fertility fair, I was like, I always think that a fertility fair is a safe place for people who are trying to conceive to come. There's so many baby fairs here in Singapore. There's one like every few months, but there's not so many fertility fairs. And so when Virtus said, let's come, let's grab our partners, and, really to provide educational, information, and for people to learn what else is out there that can help them on their journey. And I thought it was such a wonderful idea. So it's at the Royal Plaza on Scots on Saturday, 27th of September from 1 to 5. I will be there. I'll be helping out, meeting people if they want. You will be there as well. Virtus will be there. We have other partners as well covering massage, TCM, fertility soups, physio. There's so many that's going to be there. So we're excited to see all of you, and we'd love for you to.
Exactly. And we will celebrate the launch of your app.
Oh, wow. Yes, exactly. So it's the big launch of our app that's been 3 years coming. So we're so excited to show you what we've built. And,
Yeah.
we hope that it will really help you on the journey. So come and speak to us, come and download the app. And, we hope that you leave the fair feeling, okay, I've learned something new today.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you. You
Thank you.
can thank you so much for all the work you are doing.
Thank
Fantastic. We
you.
will
Thank
include
you.
all the links in the link in the description. And please come, as Kim said, we will be all there on Saturday between 1 to 5 at Royal Plaza on Scots.
Thank you. See you there. Bye.
See you. Wow, I don't know about how you feel about this conversation, but I always enjoy when there is just such a flow in conversation covering so many topics. And we're talking about men, but also women, how they deal through this fertility journey, but also losses, traumas, coming to a point where they maybe have to decide how much longer do I want to actually continue. I just find that there is always such a depth and richness in such conversation. If you want to learn more about what Kim and her team are doing, the charity is under Fertility Support Singapore. They are doing a lot of charity work. They are the ones who run all these several WhatsApp groups that Kim was mentioning during our conversation. She also has this amazing platform, which she founded a couple of weeks ago, the Effort Asia, where she talks about topics that are maybe trying to break or help to break the taboo in certain ways. And she is the co-founder of Asia's first fertility app, OEVO. So if you want to find out more about what Kim does and her amazing group of volunteers, the link is in the bio. Please click on it, please explore, reach out, and find out more about what these amazing group of women are doing. Thank you for listening in and staying with us today for this conversation. And please share if you find that this was helpful, if you know of anybody that could actually benefit from hearing what others are going through. Maybe this is something you want to share with them as well. Thank you. Thank you for your support and see you next week. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Fertility Counselor podcast. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. If you need support or have any questions, reach out to us via email at inquiries@counselingconnects.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Fertility Connects. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to learn more about us and the services we offer, head to www.fertilityconnects.com. And if you're looking for support beyond fertility, visit www.counselingconnects.com. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.